Well, let's start with the first question, which is whether they have the authority. I mean, we have to see what they do and how they do it. I mean, the process that the FDA chooses to use is relevant to that legal analysis. And until we know exactly what they're planning on doing and how they're planning on doing it, it's very difficult to react to that. But I think that we also have to keep in mind something really important, which is bigger news this week, which is that the CDC and the FDA announced that the adult smoking rate has again declined and is now at the lowest rate ever, down to 14%. It's a historic low. And whatever policies the FDA is considering, we have consistently said they have to keep the adult smoker squarely in the focus of whatever they do next, because what they do next could dramatically impact.
Are you claiming credit for that decline in smoking amongst adults? Is the e-cigarette industry claiming credit for that?
I think it is very hard to look at the data and suggest that e-cigarettes have nothing to do with the decline in cigarette smoking. The decline that has dropped now, they said, since by 65% or since 1965 is dramatic. But if you look at the actual rate of decline, it's much more aggressive since the time that e-cigarettes have really risen to prominence. And I'm sure there are other reasons why cigarette smoking continues to decline. Education is one of them. But the reality is that you cannot ignore the fact that there is a rise in e-cigarette use and a corresponding decrease in cigarette smoking.
Dr. Torres, explain to us who don't really follow this industry or know about the products all that well, what it was that Juul did that enabled it to command 3/4 of the e-cig market by virtue of, I think, from what I understand, selling a pod-like device that delivers a more concentrated dose of nicotine.
And I think you're calling it right there exactly what happened over the last few years. When Juul came out with this device, it's a pod-like device. It actually looks like a large USB stick, and so it's easy to hide. It has that cool factor that when you talk to high school students, they say, it's ubiquitous in my high school. Children are using it all over the place, teenagers. They can hide it from their teachers. They can hide it from other classmates, and it's one of those things that's very easy for them to use. They can even hide it from their parents. And so it's gotten that cool factor, and I think that's why, at least at the teenage, those ages there, it took over the market, and it's one of those things that's really proliferating throughout the school systems, and that's one of the big concerns the FDA has.
And I'm told that by using one of these devices, you can, in theory, hit the device, or if that's the term you would use, less frequently than you would with other devices, and it produces a smaller cloud of vapor. Am I right about that, gentlemen?
Well, from what I've talked to high school students, what they tell me is a couple of things. One, that vapor seems to be smaller. They can take smaller hits, but the other thing they do is right in the middle of class, again, to teachers, it looks like a USB stick. They'll inhale the fumes, and then when they exhale them, instead of getting that big cloud of vapor, they'll pull their t-shirt or their shirt up and exhale it in there, so they can do it even in the classroom itself.
So, Mr. Abboud, I want to turn to you and ask, what percentage of e-cigarette sales take place in convenience stores and gas stations, number one? And number two, how do you feel about the idea that the FDA may be banning these kinds of flavored vape products, but still allowing flavored tobacco products to be sold right off the same shelves, whether they are flavored, cherry-flavored cigars or menthol-flavored cigarettes or whatever? There seems to be an inconsistency in that.
I think you've hit the nail right on the head, Tyler. There is an inconsistency, and that is why when you're choosing one mechanism or one pathway by which these products are accessible in the market and trying to cut that off in favor of other pathways, you do run the risk of having serious unintended consequences. In this case, what essentially, if they are removing flavored e-cigarette products from convenience stores and gas stations only, they are leaving in place all of the other combustible tobacco products, which we know over the years teens have found ways to get access to and have smoked. And that is a dangerous probability, especially if your presumption is that it's the mere access, the ability to get to one of these stores that matters.